pension and provident funds. Holiday. The second biggest owner of our treasury bonds are commercial banks. Now, those two elements, we're going to come back to them in a minute because I want you to understand how treasury bonds work. We relate it to Ghana and come back to Uganda and you make an informed decision. When you back and forth, so the second one is owned by commercial banks. The third is owned by insurances, which brings in, I believe, the unit trusts. Right? The unit trusts. Katigwaina sente unit trust au nawe wogwa. Between the pension funds, the commercial banks, and the insurances and unit trusts, they own close to 75%. I think so. I think over 65% of our treasury bonds and bills. Think about it. How many companies are they? Commercial banks, how many are they? Insurance, how many are they? And pension funds, how many are they? They own almost 65%. NSSF alone, I can categorically tell you, NSSF Yoka, it owns close to 16 trillion of Uganda's debt. 16. More than half of NSSF assets zirimu Uganda's debt at face value as outstanding today, not at amortized level. Gwosubira NSSF enche genda kera nga government issuing the treasury bond. NSSF government sigenda kuola treasury bond, sigenda kuola government. Or what do you think we're going to wake up on a day government yegambe tegenda kusasula NSSF? It's impossible. Why? Even in Ghana, what they call the debt management program, the domestic debt exchange program, pension funds were carved out. We're going to talk about, like, pension funds, they were carved out. Because ngoyagala olutalo lunatwala government yonna kwata ku people's pensions. Globally, you do not joke with people's pensions. So, for as long as NSSF, the biggest pension fund in the country, and not potentially even in East Africa, can still lend to the government of Uganda, you will always be paid, my friend. That means government will always have the ability to roll over. The commercial banks. The commercial banks are the second biggest owners of treasury bonds and treasury bills in Uganda. You will give someone even the evidence of everything and they will be like, everything is possible, because for them, that's where their mind has been locked in. Commercial banks, they are leaning towards lending the government than lending towards the private sector, because they make so much money in the treasury bonds and treasury bills at the least cost possible, at the lowest cost possible. Now, if some people fault me for promoting treasury bonds and I say it's creating a crowding out effect of the private sector, then it's one point that I know I do not respond to for two reasons. One, banks were lending to the government before the Kakandes started talking about treasury bonds. Why? It's part of their mandate to buy you government's treasury bonds and treasury bills. I can never sit here and I tell you I'm advising the bank to buy more treasury bonds. They do that whether you like it or not, and they have been doing it for the longest time possible using your savings. So banks lend to government whether you like it or not. It's in their strategy, it's in their very nature to make money. They make money there. So my crusade for the retail investors is literally to empower the retail investors. But the point where we are talking about today is to tell you that treasury bonds, the banks, for as long as the banks are fully exposed to the treasury bonds, the crisis of you not paying those commercial banks is literally crashing the whole financial system. Chino ekintu kirowoozeeko from the fundamentals of the impact of each and every single bank not having money to pay your money. The closest gyesobola okuddizaayo tusobola genda wano wa Greece, where Greece had so much debt. They went into austerity measures. It was a euro denominated debt. They went into so much measures. There was no money in banks. People were laid off and everything. If that situation ever comes to life, and it's possible, the probability of it is very remote, and it's not in the next 2 years, not even in the next 5 years, but it's extreme. It's possible. It's highly improbable, but it's there. If it ever comes to that level, muganda wange, omulimo jja kuba tokyalina, buli kimu kijja kukonziba. Is that the word to use, kukonziba? Abamanyi Oluganda abalikinga live neyanzege. Is that the word to use, kukonziba? Like everything will come to a standstill, because the whole financial system is literally anchored on treasury bonds. Your pension is in treasury bonds. Half of your money that you think you have in a bank is in treasury bonds. That if tomorrow the government can't pay the banks will have you will never withdraw that money. Bank run will cause everything to crash. Because I've brought in bank run, I don't know how many people follow the news. Imagine 30 people going to the bank and never so about sentes kwati tuzirina. So you would think that million trillion 10 Stanbic zeina mu deposit bazirina mu cash. Tuliomba genda kakane kwati ezo now. No. Either that money is lent to the people out there abaine emirimo, or it's lent to the government of Uganda. Right? Now let's do a 360 recycling. Let's Jose Agame Chali Brazil. Now let's do a 360% 360 recycling of the impact of one of things like that. Abantu nemukerencha nemuga nti fena twetaga sente zaffe. Banks zijja closing, that's the fact. But this is what will happen. They will just say we don't have your money, because abayina amabanja bebazuola bakakande. At that point, the businesses are not working, so kakande cannot pay his loan. Nebaba yakuwa security nga chapa cha taka, you can't sell it out because no one has money. So you have that bad debt from kakande. Government can't give you the money because even the government cannot give you the money. Now all of a sudden, buli muntu mu economy agenda crashing out. That a catastrophic economic failure will impact everyone. It's not what happened in Ghana, but it happened in Brazil. It happened in Greece. But by the fact that banks are still lending to the government, it's because they can assess the impact there. To the extent possible, let me add this statement for any investor, even if you don't listen to Kakande, his conclusions. You follow the big guys. You go and follow what the banks are doing and what the pension funds are doing. For as long as they are still borrowing or lending to the government, you continue lending to them. Only 10% of our debt is owned by the foreign people. 10%. Ntuku trillion nkaga mumukaga, close to 70 trillion, zeziri owned by people who are not institutions that are not Ugandan.